Hello and welcome to Give Me Some Good News. We are at TTRA. So good news from TTRA today. And I am joined by, I'm going to have to talk to Whit Tuttle about this because you are actually our first state tourism director that
Oh
I've
wow.
had on this
Okay.
show. And as a proud North Carolinian, I don't know what's going on, Whit. We'll get you on next. But I'm joined by someone who is a really special guest, Mr. Duane Parrish from South Carolina, the Director of Tourism. Duane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here. And Whit, I'm sorry you're not with us.
I know what. Hey, we'll get you next time, man. We're here at TTRA, and I'm fascinated. You've been in your role now for a couple of decades. So tell me a little bit about your role and what you do with South Carolina.
Sure. Career, I was a hotelier.
Yeah.
So the mission's always been heads in the beds, and that hasn't changed.
Yep.
But was fortunate enough to be appointed in January 2011 by Governor Nikki Haley. And so my initial time, I thought I would go with her for 8 years.
Yep.
And after 6 years, she went to work in the Trump administration on this for his first term. And so I said, okay, well, I'll stick around with Lieutenant Governor McMaster. And now he has become our longest serving governor at 10 years. And I've been with him ever since. And so I'll finish up my 16th year this year, and we'll see what happens from there. But love the industry. I've been doing it all my life. I grew up in the hotel business. I've always watched people travel. Fascinating. There's nothing more fun than standing at a front desk of a hotel talking to people from out of town,
Yeah.
particularly if they're international people or they're from other parts of the country. It's just fascinating to hear what they think of the state before, and then as they check out, how was the experience? What do they think after?
Yeah.
Fascinating to do.
And you must be doing a good job because you've been doing it now for so long and you've kind of kept your term going. And what I think's really cool about all of this, Duane, is South Carolina's tourism economy is is phenomenal. So the Southeast in general, right? Like we're known for our Southern hospitality.
Yes.
What is it about South Carolina that's special? We're sitting here in Greenville, which is my favorite city. Any listener to this podcast actually knows that Greenville
Okay,
is my
good.
favorite city. And if we
Good.
could, we would absorb it into North Carolina, but that's another conversation for another day.
That's okay. I've tried to absorb Augusta into
Yeah, there
South
you go.
Carolina.
We'll switch them, right?
Yeah.
Well, there could be a little land exchange here. But I just, what is it about South Carolina that just keeps people visiting and makes it such a special place?
You mentioned a couple of things, hospitality, great weather, but almost all of the South has that. But what else we have in South Carolina is the diversity of food that we have. Recently we've added the Michelin program to South Carolina. We have four-star chefs or starred chef restaurants that are in South Carolina. So I think it's our food, everything from boiled peanuts to pimento cheese
Yep,
to the fancy five-course meal and
absolutely.
everything in between. I think another is really we have a taste of the mountains, but we also have a lot
Mhm.
of the coast, and then everything in between that from a geographical standpoint. And then outdoor experiences. The experiential thing is really what millennial travelers are looking for
Yeah.
now. And I think things that are experiential, if you go back to, remember open kitchens?
Hmm.
That was a phenomenon. I can see into the kitchen now. That
Yeah.
was the first move in the experiential. Then it became, okay, I see they're cooking, but where the ingredients come from?
Right.
So you see a list on the menu or you see a list on the board. Where the ingredients come from? Same thing with the breweries. Okay, what all's in that? How does it work? I want to
Yep.
see it go from there to the beer can. And distillery, same thing. And so I think experience, that's almost a double entendre, but experiential experiences, if you will, it is about that as much today as it is about anything else. And so I think South Carolina has a lot of that.
Yep.
Our outdoor recreation we have, the phenomenal food, culture, the people here just makes you want to be here. And if you look at our migration, we've led the state in migration the last 2 years as a percentage. People are moving here.
Yeah.
Well, as I like to say to the economic development folks, no one moves a business here first, and no one moves their residents here first without me having a great experience as a visitor.
That's so true. And as somebody who frequents South Carolina a lot, everywhere from Charleston to Florence to Myrtle Beach and everywhere in between. I mean, I've been to Straw Hat Distillery down in
Okay,
Florence.
good.
I've spent time, I've taken my family to the Ripley's Aquarium in Myrtle Beach. And the thing about South Carolina is you've got such a diversity of offerings from the low country to the up country and everywhere in
Sure.
between. And I think you have been in this role for so long now that you've been a pivotal part of growing the economy. And one of the things we were talking about, or I heard you guys talking about, is you have, what is it, 850 people that work under your office?
Roughly, yeah.
What is it like leading an office of that size?
Sure. Well, majority of those are in the field. We
Sure,
only we only have about 70 people actually in the central office.
sure.
Most of those are in state parks. We have 50 state parks now that are open and several other under development. But we have parks that draw as many as, 1 million people a year. They have a fair amount of staff, some of which live in the park, some of which live offside of the park. So we're sort of like a small corporation for the state of South Carolina. And then we have our state's welcome centers. We have 9 welcome centers, 8 of which are at the border. of our states that come in that I call our front porches, and they really are first impressions for many people, both in-state residents as well as people who visit us. Is your first impression? I've always said to both governors I've had, if you don't look good on the front porch, you're probably not going to have a good impression of the rest of the
Right.
house. And I said, so if the bathroom is spacious, lighted, clean, if the welcome center itself has some little character to it, the people are friendly there, they're going to have a good impression of the state.
Yeah.
Conversely, even if you live here, if you stop and say, "God, I'm so disappointed in where I stopped and went to the bathroom in my own state," all of a sudden they have a negative impression there. Same applies to visitors. So I think their first impression, like many things, first impressions are critical, and I believe that for our welcome centers. So we have a number of employees at welcome centers, a number of employees at state parks, and then we have about 70 people in the central office, from the film commission to marketing to research, to state parks, into the director, which I am a part of, but just some of those wonderful people in the travel and tourism industry and that help lead the way. And they really make the trains run on time and
Yeah.
just do a phenomenal job for me and for the rest of the state.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, I think about something that a previous speaker was talking about. Tourism is true cash in hand economic development.
Yeah.
When you look at an organization like yours, what you're focusing on is being the front porch and being the one that is able to actually uh, connect the dot between visitation and someone actually moving and choosing South Carolina as their state of choice. What are some success stories that you've seen tangentially from actually having businesses move to South Carolina, or having maybe like some new startups find their home in South Carolina through just visiting and loving where they live?
Sure, I'll start. Well, we partner with the Department of Commerce a lot
Right.
because it's not just about economic development, of which tourism is a very large part of, but also about tourism really is a way of life, and a company wants to move to a place that their employees and their staff can have a great quality of life. And so I think that's where we sort of at the tip of the spear many times, I
Yep.
like to say, in terms of they visit first, have a great time. But I'll give you Volvo, for example. So Volvo built a plant in the state, and it's down in just north of Charleston. Volvo, we recruited Volvo along with the Department of Commerce. Did a number of things. We helped them become the title sponsor for a number of years of the tennis tournament, and WTA tennis tournament in Charleston, called the Volvo Car Open. And then we helped them, put a car on display in the Charleston airport. We helped them do a lot of things that made them feel like a community, made them feel like part of the community in Charleston, of which they are.
Mhm.
And now, since that time, we've now got Scout Motors has a plant under construction in
Yep.
Blythewood, right outside Columbia. And so we have three, and Scout's actually owned by Volkswagen. So we have
Mhm.
three international car companies. BMW, who's been here since
Yeah, right
1992.
here.
Yeah, it's the largest state employer, largest private employer in the state. BMW, Volvo, and Scout Motors, all in the state now, and we're a fairly small state, but we make airplanes with Boeing, the Dreamliner in Charleston. We make cars. We make more tires than any other state in the country. And so, but all that's tied to somebody had a great time when they came as a visitor first.
Yeah.
And they had that great time, and they wanted that for their employees and their staff, and not just that, but their customers and other firms that moved around to South Carolina to be near them. Because if you look at BMW since the early 90s when they came here, there are a number of large companies here like ZF Transmissions that supply BMW
Hmm.
that have moved here because of that. So it starts a chain, if you will, over time, and with the success of those companies becomes the success of the region, the success of South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to shift gears, pun intended, a little bit. We're here at TTRA and the focus is on travel research. And you're very actionable with the research that you and your team provide to you. Can you share an example of where research or visitor insight changed the way that South Carolina approaches its marketing, product development, or strategy?
Sure. Well, early on, we looked at it, and if you go back 30 years, the state agency led the marketing for the entire state and the destinations because the accommodation taxes weren't in play back then. And so the destinations like Charleston and Myrtle Beach really didn't have that much funding compared to today. And so our marketing focus was more like adding Southern Living with the beach on the
Right.
beach in the main a full page ad. As we sort of transition through the last 20 years, it's okay. These destinations not only have the funding to be able to market themselves, they've also established more brand identity over the number of years. So what we sort of help move the train is really in what we call undiscovered South Carolina. And
Hmm.
that's sort of the rest of the state, the undiscovered, what we call the undiscovered areas, what you would call rural areas.
Hmm.
But if you think about some of the great places just on the coast in between the Myrtle Beaches and Charleston and Hilton Heads, and that's Beaufort, South Carolina,
Hmm.
Bluffton, Georgetown, phenomenal little places that don't have the brand identity, don't have the funding that large destinations do. But that's where we can help them as a destination. You go into Aiken and Camden, two wonderful equestrian places right
Hmm.
outside Columbia. And I mean, Aiken has trained a Kentucky Derby winner. I mean, there have been phenomenal success stories from a tourism perspective, even a lot of our rural areas. We started that with a barbecue trail. Everybody loves barbecue. We had that for lunch today.
Yes, we did.
And everyone loves barbecue. We found out they're passionate about what type of sauce they prefer. And
Yeah.
so we started a barbecue trail back in 2013 that still exists today that has sort of helped get people off the interstate, if you will, and into some of those rural areas. And we've done a number of things since that time period to sort of drive tourism into that. We've had an impact in terms of occupancy, in terms of spending in many of the rural areas. It wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think and that came from research of, where can we move the needle? Where are opportunities here? And
Yeah.
so we see that now, and we see the success of what we've done with revenue per available room in occupancy in the rural areas, and also through the spending in those areas as
Yeah.
well.
And that's so important because, I listeners of the podcast know I come from a small destination. And so whenever you have the state support on your destination level, there are bigger players in the game, but whenever you feel like you've got the support of the state and they're bolstering the work that you're doing, you're able to tell your story. And
Sure.
that doesn't happen without research, right? Like you need to know
Yeah.
where to point those dollars and where to point those messages. So that's a great case study.
Yeah, no matter how great your story is, if you don't get it to the right people, it doesn't matter. I
Absolutely.
mean, there's no such thing as a great secret in marketing.
Absolutely. God, well said, man. One of the things I like to talk about is leadership styles. And I think we're at an inflection point as an industry where we're really starting to answer those questions like where do we develop the next generation of destination marketing practitioners? Um, when you're kind of hiring or considering developing future leaders, what skills are becoming increasingly important in your eyes to the next generation of DMO professionals?
I think it's a skill set from in the travel industry of recognizing the consumer. That's
Hmm.
not taught a lot. At least it wasn't in mine. I still get a sense of that today. It's not taught a lot of recognizing the consumer, who they are, what they want, not just to travel, what they want to do. I mentioned the experiences earlier. Mostly when I traveled as a child with my parents, it was to go to destination to get to where we were going.
Yeah.
And so if we stopped at a restaurant because we were hungry, that's where we stopped on the way. And it was not kind of a forgettable experience.
Yeah.
And then we got to the destination and did what we were intended to do. But today it's about the journey. It's how
Yeah.
you get there. What do you stop and see along the way? Road trips. You hear that term a lot more now. I'm not that is something in the younger generation of millennials that are still learning that about the experience because they've got so much at the tip of their fingers with their phone, and sometimes, you see them in the back seat. They're not looking out the window at the great things they're driving by. Instead,
Right.
they're on their phone.
Right.
And so getting them when they come into the industry to realize there's so much out to see and do. And I think that's happening now with the growth of outdoor recreation. I
Hmm.
think which became evident after COVID. COVID put people outdoor recreation they had not been in for decades. You look at the success of golf since, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, all those things that you outdoor recreation, even pickleball, even.
Yeah.
I mean, those things took off after COVID because people was, hey, I want to go back outdoors.
Yep.
So the experiences of those things today that sometimes aren't taught in the classroom, but the younger generation really, if you grasp that, figure out how to get that to the right people. But wherever your destination, whatever your story you have to tell from wherever you are, be authentic.
Yeah.
That's the I would preach. When I started, I realized we were a state known for beaches and golf, so let's go sell that,
Yeah.
not try to sell something we're not. And so, obviously food and other things in outdoor recreation are parts of that, but understand who you are, what you're selling, and who to sell it to.
Yep, absolutely. So being maybe a little more empathetic to the end consumer, like
Yes.
a little more dialed
Yeah.
into the tone of the person you're marketing to. Because, and to your point, I really believe a lot of times as destination marketers, we can lose the forest for the trees and we can see numbers instead of individuals, and we can see segment demographics instead of people and families. So I think understanding who you're selling to and really dialing that in is going to be huge. One thing that I wanted to touch on is you built this great legacy. You have an amazing state to market. My neighboring state, I love it dearly.
I am blessed.
Absolutely, man. And when we're thinking about the legacy you built, the state you're marketing, what excites you most about the next iteration or the next decade for South Carolina tourism?
I think for us, it's still that small state, small town identity a little bit. Yet we can play with the big boys and what we have to offer, and in some cases, even better.
Yeah.
And so we don't have some of the crowds of other places. Yet we still have phenomenal experiences along the beach, along the coast, the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is the Cherokee Foothills Trail along your border state,
Yep.
was a phenomenal drive. It's like it is to the mountains what the coastal highway is to the beach.
Yeah.
And a lot of the unique things you'll find, including the Pumpkin Town Opry
Hmm.
along the Cherokee Foothills Trail. But experiences like that are unique, I think, for the next generation. And having being able to tell those stories and the financial success to come to some of those areas, many of which are rural, which aren't as what I would call rich areas of the larger cities in both our states.
Right.
And in the Carolinas, I think that is a chance that we have it to do. And we market a lot with we joked about Whip, but we
Yeah.
market together a lot. I kid, he's my brother with the same last name, and
Yep.
and so we market ourselves. So many people just they're not sure if Charlotte, if other people, our parts, they're not sure if Charlotte or Charleston are in North Carolina or South
Right.
Carolina.
Right.
They
It's just
confuse it.
Carolina.
They
Yeah.
confuse, particularly if they're west of the Mississippi, they kind of
Yep.
confuse them. So let's just go market it all together anyway. And
Absolutely.
so we've done that a lot, and we've been fairly successful, I think, in those because most people come to both places anyway.
Yeah.
But think about the Great Smoky Mountains and
Yeah.
the great, wonderful beaches along South Carolina, and then all the things in between there that just get people excited about traveling. But I just think, travel is an innate human nature to do. And I think regardless of the generation they want to do it, it's how they hear about it and where they go may change, but it's still there. They're going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think so, even in bad economic times, people still travel, they just spend less on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's a great point. And to your point about those partnerships, like Whitewater Falls, which is up in my neck of the woods. It's split between North and South
Sure.
Carolina. And I'm driving, funny enough, I'm driving up through Seneca that way to go back home through Cashers. So I'm going to go experience that on the way.
Oh,
Well,
beautiful drive, by the
oh,
way.
it's the best. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful up there. And honestly, Dwayne, I just want to thank you for your time today, man. I love seeing success stories. I love seeing states and case studies who are pushing the limits, who are thinking proactively, and who are using research to really fuel their marketing in a strategic way. One of the things we like to ask all of our guests when we land the plane here is a very open-ended question. It can be personal, it can be
Sure.
professional. But Dwayne, can you give me some good news?
Sure. Yeah. The good news can be, okay, personal, or I'll give you a little bit of both.
Sure.
On the business side, I think the good news is that the growth of golf has really benefited our state since COVID. I think that's going to continue. People have re-engaged in the game like never before. The PGA just announced some changes the other day, and I think that's going to benefit us as a state long term. Golf draws in people who spend more money per day, speaking of research, and spend more money per day. And that's always as a destination market what you want. On the personal side, I have got four wonderful grandchildren, of which I'm going to go to spend some time with on an island in South Carolina
Amazing.
that you can drive to. And I can't wait to be there and spend some time with them in a few weeks.
That's amazing. Well, hey, go enjoy it in a few weeks. If people want to learn more about you or find you, where can they do that?
Sure. SCPRT.com is
Hmm.
about our website, talks about all of our staff, from research to marketing to state parks. But our you can find out a little bit more about me. And then discoversouthcarolina.com is our website for marketing the state. And then southcarolinastateparks.com is our site for the South Carolina State Parks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. And we're going to go eat some more barbecue, have some more fun, and enjoy the beautiful riches of Greenville, South Carolina, one of my favorite cities. I appreciate your time. And y'all, this has been some good news.